we were planning, Arif approached me to include the first Commonwealth Women's Entrepreneur Summit, and I'd listened to it, and it sounded like the perfect way to finish this day. Unfortunately, because of the restrictions, we had to take away what was going to be prize giving and external representatives. This is an amazing thing that Arif had a massive role in, as well as Bloomsbury Radio. And if we're talking about collective identity, progressive change, things that make a massive difference, then I feel that Arif will explain exactly why this was the place to be.
What do I say? Fire! Wake you up if I say fire. No, don't worry, there's a fire exit there, so I'll be the first one out. But okay, so it's been a long day, and Joe, you didn't get the short straw, I did, but there we go. So the question for today, what do we want to be? What does Umna want to be? What does Anisa want to be? Now, Umna is 13. Anisa is 10. We know about Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, the millennial generation. These two young girls happen to be my daughters, but they're also the next generation, classifications, if you like. Not classifications, but sort of marketeers use these labels. So Generation Z is Umna. Yeah? She was born in 2007. So children that were born around that time are now growing up in a different world. The world that they grew up in, they were born into the global financial crisis, it's a different world for them. Now, Anisa was born in 2011. See, she, as I discovered recently, is Generation Alpha. Check it out, yeah? Generation Alpha. So that's basically the current generation. Babies born today, and there have been many born in the world while this conference has been going on, they're Generation Alpha. Yeah? The point is simply this. What do we want to be for them? What will they be? Because within 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years, they will be our students, or longer. And the way in which young people are learning today is very different, as any of you with young children will know or have nephews and nieces. Last December, the world's biggest economies had a virtual meeting, the G20. And one of the things that they said when they came out of that meeting was they said, there is an immediate issue that needs urgent action, and that is the underrepresentation of you and you and you, women, in emerging fields. We know the language, ed tech. We've been living ed tech furiously for the last 18 months. But also, Cordelia will be the first to tell you, there's also create tech. Creative industries. There is fintech. Anybody that's got an app on their phone with mobile banking is using fintech. And we have fashion tech. We have agri-tech. Others as well. Health tech, of course. Anybody that did their COVID-19 test this morning would have been health tech, because that's how you are using the app. But what about the design of these, or these sectors as they're emerging? What does it mean for women? Because often women are underrepresented, and we know that is a reality. What can we do about that? And that was the context for what happened last month, or what happened in May, when for the first time in many years, for the first time ever, people came together. The UK government has a network. The UK government puts money into inventors, And they were a bit concerned a few years ago that there weren't enough inventors coming forward that were women. So they created a network. This is Innovation UK, which is part of the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills. And they created this network called Women in Innovation Network. There are 7,000 now, these women across the UK, that are given funding to develop their ideas, yeah? Across different disciplines, different areas. And the Women in Innovation Network was one of the partners. Another partner was the Commonwealth Business Women's Network, which some of you might know I sit on the board of, but this is an organization like the Commonwealth Games Federation that is recognized by all of the 54 member governments. So there are many of these Commonwealth organizations, and they're the one, that's the one that works particularly with women in business across the Commonwealth. It's another organization that some of you may have come across called the Global Entrepreneurship Network. They're best known for being the organization behind the biggest celebration of entrepreneurship in the world. We're talking 10 million people. We're talking 185 countries. We're talking every November. This is big. And it's been going on every year since 2008. But we wanted to ground this in Africa. Let's bring Africa into the conversation. Perhaps something we haven't heard enough about today. Yeah? So the biggest entrepreneur network for women, involving women from Africa, African Women Entrepreneurs Network. All these 4 organizations came together in May, and they organized the first ever conversation around women in emerging tech. So not just what's going on in these areas like ed tech and health tech and fashion tech and agri-tech, issues around access to finance for women, or what's happening in those sectors, but what are the opportunities for women? And how can women shape that future? And also, how can girls like Amna and Nisa, girls of that age, be, how can we design a system that is more, going to capture their ideas and innovation for the future? Now, why am I telling you this? Because Bloomsbury, yes, Bloomsbury Institute, not Oxford, not Harvard, not Chicago, not Johannesburg, Bloomsbury Institute were there. We were the only higher education institution right there at the heart of the action. 3 ways, 3 examples of how our students got involved. Our students got involved, and we've heard it already, through radio. In fact, that was one of the big successes of the event, because all of the event was done virtually, and it's available. If you've not seen the links, it's available through, I think we put the link up, or Tom will put the link up. All the footage is there, all the YouTube videos are there, all the resources are there. But Cal, when I was speaking to Cal about this, and Barra, and also the other people that we'd recently been on a course with students on the Bloomsbury Radio, we thought, well, how can we make this more engaging? Of course, one of the challenges, if we're doing anything in the Commonwealth, is people that don't have access to video. They may have data issues, yeah? Well, this is not just a developing country issue. People will tell you parts of London have issues with signals. But the point is that clearly, if you're talking about something globally, you've got to think about issues with connectivity. And of course, audio is good, yeah? Because it doesn't use as much power, and so people can access audio. So Bloomsbury Radio got involved. We had students involved as presenters and production, front of house, back of house, about a dozen or so. And they were doing interviews with, there were a lot of people here. We had 70 speakers across 2 days, 1,500 people from 80 countries participating. This was big. It was the world's first event of its kind. The UN told us that. It's the UN, not us, telling us that. Students involved through radio, really getting involved in that. And I can tell you from the people that were interviewed, they loved it. They were being asked good questions and production. It was great. What else did they do? How else did students get involved? Students got involved in running the event. Now, the event was run by a core team, a lot of experience, but students were absolutely, in fact, Shola, who I'm not sure is with us this second, but Shola could say, she is. Do you want to come up for a second, Shola? This is totally unscripted and unplanned and highly risky for someone that does a course in corporate risk management. Let me not talk about gender without any women on the stage. So, Shola, you tell them how, particularly with the students that you worked with, how they got involved.
Okay, unscripted indeed. So how did the Guild get involved? Well, Arif, contacted us and said he needed students to help. He did not tell us what the help was. And he arranged a training with, I can't remember her name, Elaine. And we had this training, and students were really eager to join. So we had 15 students from coming through the Guild to sit down at this meeting. And at this meeting, we were told that they needed somebody to read the actual scripts that were the reports that were going to go out, that were going to be read by all the delegates, that we had to proofread, come up with titles, and we were going to put them on their system. I said, Arif, great. But the students were very well up to it, so that was our first task. We got them proofreading, reading the stuff, coming up with abstracts, and then we had to put this on their system. Had no idea how to do it, but when you're with a team of students, everybody's strength came through. So we had students with Georgiana. She was a master behind it, so we were able to upload. We were the only ones that actually uploaded all their documents that were viewed by all the attendees. So that in itself was, And then we had students also, the social media element. So they also, as a team, were responding and, were, spreading the word. And, so we had all these different tasks that maybe if Arif had given me the brief, I would say we're not ready for it. However, because we're very resilient, we took the plunge, we ran with it, and we made it happen. So yes, that was what the students did. Thank you.
So it was very powerful because the students that that Shola was bringing in, they were getting involved in exactly what she was saying, or that event management side. But it was crucially important. But it didn't stop there. The students also got involved in being the rapporteurs. Now, the reason we held this event in May was deliberate. It wasn't just because the teaching was slowing down, Anna, although that was certainly helpful. I was navigating, marking 1 minute while I was doing the other, multitasking. Although Anna's very good, she's not on your back like Chris is. She just lets you get on with it. But anyway, let's not go down there. The reason it was happening in May was because we knew that the first face-to-face meeting of heads of government was happening within days. Remember, COVID, yeah? People haven't been coming together. The last time the UN held a meeting where heads of government physically met each other was in September 2019. So there has been very limited, and a lot of that stuff that you read about, there's a lot of stuff that is personal chemistry, there's a lot of, and none of that was happening until June, when of course Cornwall had a global stage because Cornwall hosted, as you may remember, the G7 meeting. So we wanted to do this event before the G7 meeting, and we wanted to make sure that the messages that came out of the event got fed in. That was difficult. But because we were working with partners that had access and that were working through government, we were able to do that. But to do that, we couldn't do it on our own. Students were absolutely part of that process. So we had a crack team of students. We had 12 sessions. We had students as rapporteurs who sat in on the sessions. They were all videoed, so they could always go over them again. And unlike a lecture, it wasn't 2 hours, it was 1 hour, but it was, fascinating. So there'd be a presentation of 3 or 4 people talking about fashion and technology, or health and technology, whatever the topic was. And the students were asked, they had a common template. What were the key takeaways? What did they learn? What were the things that struck them most? Any memorable quotes? And they had to produce these short 2 or 3 page summaries, which were really helpful in producing what we call the interim report. And that was the third thing that was done. Yeah? The rapporteurs helped us produce this report. So what am I saying with all of this? So this experience was exciting, was uncharted, and it was a great opportunity for our students to really get involved in a big international event and to have an impact. That report was produced, it was published before the G7 meeting, it was delivered into the UK government. They then got it fed into the meeting itself and to the people that were doing the follow-up, and it got picked up in other ways. And I think I'll just close with this. There was several of the messages that came back from the students, I think, were the ones that will always stay with me. And the messages were really, and I haven't got, the script in front of me, but it was pretty much, they were saying, most of the students that volunteered and got involved were women. And they were all saying that my eyes were opened because I saw people like me do those things. I saw, women driving these changes in whatever it was, whether it was in the fintech or the health tech or the fashion tech. And it made me rethink about what I could do. That was powerful. It'll be even more powerful if Amna and Anissa and girls of that generation can benefit from that too. And hopefully we'll move in that direction as well. Thank you.